Sharp Game here, coming at you with another episode from ChooseYourRelationships.com off of Love Can't Wait, which can be found on Amazon.com. Now, in this video, I'm going to talk about relationship fantasies. I'm talking about some of the stuff that I thought I knew and some of the stuff that a lot of people don't realize that affects their relationships today. And it's just some people that are together in relationships today that should have never gotten together in the first place. They shouldn't even be in no relationship today. And this has an effect on the success and fail rate that happens in this country. And the divorce rate, last I checked, is 70%. It might be a little higher than that, you know. And what you have to realize is that you have to know who you are and understand where you came from and understand who the person is that you're getting with, who they are, where they came from, how they was raised, and what they all about. See, today, you have a lot of people that like a lot of attention out here today. And a lot of stuff that a lot of people talk about don't have nothing to do with no relationship. Don't have nothing to do with no marriage at all. They're just talking about stuff they want and their goals. And that don't have anything to do with no relationship. They're just talking about themselves most of the time. And see, today a lot of guys that I see, that I know personally, that I meet on a weekly basis, they have a tough time trying to provide for their family. And they don't really understand how they grew up really affects their relationship and their support system. They don't have any support system in most cases. That affects their relationship too. See, a lot of guys out here, they think they can do everything. And there's a lot of women out here think the guy is supposed to do damn near everything. And I'm here to tell you that you just cannot sustain that. That's almost impossible. One person can't be all things to everybody. That's just not even practical thinking, you know. And see, I realized when I was growing up that there's no such thing as a self-made millionaire. There's no one person that does it all by himself. It just doesn't work like that. And these are just some of the fantasies that a lot of women have, and even some guys, you know, because a lot of guys don't really have time to sit down and really think about a lot of stuff that they do on a weekly basis, because they're too busy. They're working 2, 3, sometimes 3 jobs, you know, they're slaving away trying to take care of their family, while a woman, she's whining and complaining about, you ain't spending enough time with me. But the reason why he's not spending a lot of time with you is because he doesn't have enough support. That's what it is. And a lot of guys are caught up into this hamster wheel, you know. And on the other side of the game, a lot of women, they're not even focused. Their focus is on love on television, looking at love and hip hop, looking at the reality shows. Everything is instant. They want fast food, fast money. They want to go out to dinner all the time. They'll take the whole kids out to the fast food restaurant. I've seen this for many times. They don't like to cook no more, you know. So it's like you can't maintain and raise disciplined kids on this. You can't. It's dysfunctional. Really. I mean, it's like, I'm going to tell you where I came from. I came from two parents that grew up Jim Crow South. Now, if you don't know what Jim Crow was all about, Jim Crow was about taking everything that our families had. I don't care if you had a horse, a dog, whatever you had, land, it was about taking all of our shit and transferring it over to the other side. That's what Jim Crow was about. My parents grew up in a time where it was like you couldn't go to the hospital, you couldn't go to college, you couldn't you couldn't call the police. They couldn't do that. Imagine being in a society where you couldn't call the police if something happened to you. If you needed protection, you couldn't call the cops. You couldn't go to the hospital. You couldn't go to college. There's a lot of stuff you couldn't do. I don't think a lot of people realize what happens. Plus, on my dad's side of the family, they got wiped out. The only person that survived was him and his sister. His parents, the rest of his siblings, wiped out. When I say wiped out, I mean killed. And on my mom's side of the family, my grandmother was adopted, right? So when she got adopted, she was in a good situation. You know, they took care of her like she was like one of their own. I couldn't tell the difference. You know, actually, I didn't know until I was an adult that she was adopted. So she was in a good situation, thankfully, you know. And she grew up, got married to my grandfather. He made a deal and became a farmer, got some land, had about, 10 kids, and they had kids, and it was cool. So it was a loving family on my mom's side of the game. You know, my mom's side of the family. But imagine what would have happened if, on my dad's side of his family, imagine what would happen if everyone survived, if no one got slaughtered. See, when my mom and dad came together, shortly afterwards, my dad was in a car accident. So he died. I really didn't know him. I was a baby, you know. Then my mom got married again, right? And there was nothing passed down through all of this. There was nothing left to pass down from the time my grandmother was adopted, from the time that my mom and dad came together, there was nothing passed down on either side of the families at all. So when I was born, it was nothing to pass down. So when I grew up, even after my mom and dad just passed away like a year or two ago, right? It's nothing that was passed down. So when I went to college, I'm starting from scratch. There's nothing left to pass down. I have nothing to work with. And see, the reason why I tell this story, because see, a lot of people don't realize if you're starting from scratch, you're going to struggle in the beginning. You're going to struggle for probably for a long time. You're going to have to overcome a lot of obstacles and overcome a lot of things. Now, if you have something that's tangible to work with, you have large sums of money, a trust fund, you have land, you have resources, you have connections. When you're 18 years of age or 21, whichever comes first, if you have that, you be much better off than a person that has to start from scratch. I've seen it. Now, you got some people that have trust funds, they blow it. that have resources and access to people, they blow it. But most people I know, if you trace them from the age of 20, 18, 21, 20 years later, if you compared both people, the person that don't have anything to work with that started from scratch versus the person that had some tangible resources to start with, 9 times out of 10, that person that had something to work with is going to be much better off. That's just what it is. See, I realize that most people are not bootstrapping anything in this country at all. That's a fantasy. It really is. Most people that you see with a house, couple cars, or maybe they got a business or something like that, there's a boomer that backed them. The boomer is probably their parents, that's probably mid-60s or late 70s, because the boomers are the people that basically worked their jobs for 20, 25 years, got pensions and retired, and now they're helping their kids now. You know, that's what I saw when I was growing up. Now today, those boomers, they're dying off. So a lot of the kids that's in the 20s today, they don't have that support the way they used to. They don't have that support the way they used to, because a lot of those boomers, they're dying off. So I'm here to tell you that you always have to look for leverage. So when I say leverage, meaning that you're only one person. You can't do everything. So you have to have support. So you need leverage from either 3 ways. If you're gonna have other people, support system in place, or money, or resources, or tools. There's only 3 ways to leverage: resources, people, or tools, or money. That's it, really. And here's the deal. If you don't have the support structure in place, if nothing was passed down to you, and if you haven't figured out how to create resources around you, you're going to keep having to pay for every goddamn thing. You're going to have to pay for everything. You're going to have to pay to get your car fixed every time it breaks down. You're going to have to pay for all your medical expenses. You're going to have to pay to get people to do a favor for you in most cases. I'm talking the average person here. I'm not talking about somebody like me or a mover and a shaker. No, I'm talking the average young person that's 20, 21 years of age that don't understand how things really work out here. You're going to have to keep paying for everything. And that's going to take a lot of money. And it's not, and how long are you going to be able to maintain that? 5 years? 2 years? 10 years? You have to keep making money. And most people I've seen usually run out of money. And most people don't know how to make money. They don't know how to multiply money. And they don't know how to keep money. So they don't really have a support structure in place. You know? So you know what? This video is getting a little too long. I'm going to do a Patreon video, and I'm going to talk about some of the solutions that you can do to maintain your relationships, and some things that you have to think about before you get involved with anybody, man or woman, and some things that really makes a difference. And it's really part of the reason why I see most relationships fail, because see, there's this thing where a lot of women, they don't really care about what happened back in the day. A lot of people, males and females, they don't care. They don't think it makes a difference. But where you came from really makes a difference. What's going to happen what's happening to you today. Because that way of thinking and the way you were raised kind of have an indirect or sometimes a direct reflection on how you see things. What's your reality? So I'm going to talk about that in my Patreon video. So go over there and subscribe. Patreon.com/Sharp Game. And if you like what you heard, subscribe, share this video, and go buy my books. Until next time, I'm out. Peace.